Thunder Bay Councillor at Large Aldo Ruberto joins Net News Ledger to talk about the Indoor Turf Centre and COVID. It's James with Net News Ledger joining us, Councillor at Large Aldo Ruberto, who probably holds the untitled title as Thunder Bay's Ambassador of Positivity. Aldo, welcome to Net News Ledger.
Thank you, James. A pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Now, the first thing I want to talk about, you've been having a lot of discussion on social media about the indoor turf facility. You have been a supporter since the idea first came up. You're a supporter now. You've been having some discussion across social media on where we should go next. What do you want to share with our readers and viewers?
Well, I'm looking at the positive side of everything, obviously. I believe that our goal should be the best city in the world. That should be the goal for the city. Now, if you don't get that, let's be the best city in Canada. If we don't get that, let's be the best city in Ontario. But the goal should be the best city possible. And when you go to do something, do it right. Build the best thing you can build. And you will find that if you keep doing those type of things, the city will grow. To do, if people believe that we have to wait for the right time, I don't know what the right time is, because, we hear that, we heard it for the community auditorium, we heard it for the Port Arthur Stadium, we heard it for the complex, Canada Games complex, we hear it for the waterfront, definitely for the waterfront. We heard that consistently. Now's not the time, now's not the time. And I get where people are coming from. People are going through COVID right now. Some people are struggling financially. I understand that. But the way to get out of those things is to create projects and that's what the government does during recessions, depressions, etc. The federal, provincial government stick up and they put funding forward to help you move the community forward. And the private sector during those tough times, what they do is they retreat because they're too scared to invest.
Yes.
So that's how we got the highways. That's how we get bridges. That's how we get facilities, in pandemic and recession type of times. I know the waterfront started in 2006. Okay. And I know that because I just became a councillor at that time. And guess what, James? At that time period was the lowest housing prices in Canada. And we had the highest unemployment at that time. Okay. Highest unemployment. What happened? We got the private sector on board with the public sector. The federal government said, hey, we'll put money in, the province puts money in, the city puts money in, and the private sector puts money in. And we matched it and it became like a $120 million project. And look what it's done for our city now. It's fantastic. I go there walking pretty well 5 times a week. And it's created jobs. It's created revenue in terms of taxation. It's one of the jewels of the city, if not the biggest jewel we have in the city.
Now, one of the things that I found a little confusing, I was watching council, and first off, the price of the indoor turf facility. Now, I'm not one of the ones sitting there going, oh my God, we can't spend the money, because I think we need one. We need something for the soccer community. Soccer is far more affordable than hockey. By the time you get a $300 to $400 pair of skates and a $200 hockey stick and the rest of the gear, and then ice time, families are starting to go, okay, I can play soccer and it's more affordable. So there's a future in the sport. So I do understand that. But it was confusing at council. And I know several of the councillors, it started a conversation on where the funding was going to come from.
Yeah.
Where are we with the funding on the event, the indoor turf?
Okay, so from day one, we've always said we're going to have to borrow at the time $15 million, okay? That was based on the funding that we had already, okay? The funding we had already had come from the provincial government earlier. I think it was a gasoline tax funding, or I'm trying to remember the proper term for it. Anyway, we had money saved up. We would get some money from the tourism fund. And to be honest with you, the taxpayer was going to contribute only the debenture, the money we were going to borrow. And that was $15 million when we first started, okay? Now, because the price, and that was equating to $20 a year per household. $20 a year per household was the cost originally, okay? Now, the cost is $22.50 a year. So it went up by $2.50, okay?
Really not even what people are buying a
yeah.
double for.
Yeah, so some of the councillors are saying, well, we can't go forward right now because we don't have the funding. We'll wait until we get funding. That was public all the time. My impression was that we didn't get the ISEP funding last year because they said it, they told us that. But I'm under the impression we could get funding, ISEP funding this year. You know what I mean? Like there's funding and there's other opportunities for funding. So I'm under the impression that every year these categories come down with funding. Okay, it's not like people were saying, oh, they hid it from us. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. I don't remember. I've always heard 15 million we were going to borrow. I've always heard it was going to be $20. I've never heard the addition of extra funding. They said, well, we might get it, might not get extra funding. And of course, they're talking about federal areas, other provincial funding sources, etc. I do know, and James, I don't know if I do know the provincial government is going to lay out a plan to get that economy going for everybody across Canada. So probably $1 billion something. They'll announce it. They'll do whatever they want to do. So there's going to be opportunities, obviously opportunities. And I think what's critical to understand, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things I remember, Aldo, when I was a kid living here in Thunder Bay, the debate started over the community auditorium. And like almost every project in Thunder Bay, it had its detractors. And at the time, there was the Rick Smith Open Line Show every morning. Yes. That icon of radio that started his day and worked for 8 straight hours on the radio to, was it the 11 o'clock top 10 or the top 10 that came on? That was his lunch hour, right? And then he came right back to the Rick Smith Noon News and the Rick Smith Afternoon Talk Show. And it was on that show, I felt, that the detractors got on and we ended up getting a smaller facility than was originally proposed. And now, we can't attract the bigger acts that the people in the city are saying we need. So with the turf facility, do you think there's a parallel there? Only this time it's not a radio talk show, it's social media.
Yes, and James, thank you for pointing this out. This is a critical point, okay? Because people are saying build a bubble, don't worry about the track, don't worry about the spectators, just build a facility that's going to accommodate the sport. That's it, a little smaller, and you'll work it out. Well, I say to those people, we have 9 arenas for a population of participants that's a lot less. Okay, I made a mistake when I was speaking on council. I said there was 6,000 participants. When I talked to one of the people that's involved, they said, Aldo, there's 8,000 between indoor baseball, indoor football, lacrosse league, cricket, soccer, and I know what the other sport is. But if we're going to do it, my philosophy is build it right, build it so you grow into, not grow out of. Make it so you can host other events there. Make it so you can have tournaments, spectator participation. Oh, and I forgot, they have a track going around. You can take the track out, but the track is for the seniors. There's no place, or very few places besides Intercity Mall, that a senior could go and walk in the wintertime safely without slipping and falling and costing us a fortune. Yep. When the weather's beautiful, because you can have a nice bubble, facility, yes, where they could walk, you know what I mean, with a track. And so you want to build something that's attractive to other events, and you want to build it right. You don't want to fool around. And I know there's some people saying, bubbles are great, and this is good, and we can do that. Well, I say like this then, if that's a good thing, you want to do that, next hockey arena we build a bubble. Police station, put a fence around it and build a bubble. We can do it. They're great. Anything we build, you want to build an arts complex or an art gallery, build a bubble. Like, it doesn't make sense. You're building a community. And remember, the goal is best city in the world, okay? Because I remember the track at the complex, Canada Games Complex. It only goes 3/4. It goes 3/4 of the way around. It doesn't go all the way around because they cut back on it. And so now you have to go down the stairs onto the pool area, cut across, where the diving platformers are and come back up the other side. So I don't know. And again, I understand other people's point of view, and I understand the reluctance to do this, but I also understand the cost it's going to be going forward once it's done. And that cost is, I think, a high price to pay for not doing it right.
Now, do you think that one of the issues I think is sort of happening here is there's a lot of people out there that aren't feeling that they're getting the information that they need. Do you think that's the issue?
Yes. Yes, in one way, yes. But here's the thing, James, as you know, and I know, there's council meetings, there's ward meetings, there's television you can watch, right? You can watch things on television. You got the news, you got the paper. Not everything is covered. It's impossible for the news to cover everything because they only have 5 minutes or 10 minutes at the most, right?
Yeah.
So you can go to the minutes on the website, and some people will film the meetings and cut a little portion of it to make us look good or bad or whatever they want to do. Mm-hmm. If you want to know what's going on, you've got to watch the meetings, and you'll see yourself what's going on, and you'll see the process, etc. Communication is the toughest part for anybody to do in this day and age. Social media is one platform, but you know, and I know, there's very few counselors on social media that are going to discuss and debate anything, because as soon as you say something, 20 people jump in and slam you or throw you under the bus or make fun of you, whatever it is. And it's the same 20 people.
It takes a skin like a rhinoceros, I think. Sometimes in the media, we get the same thing. We're never right. You're never right. But somehow people keep voting for council.
Yeah, I know. I think the one thing that really bothers me is the civility. I mean, if you're going to discuss something with me, like let's talk civilly. Let's try to present our case. But why do you have to make it personal? And because of that, you don't see too many councillors on social media debating anything or commenting. And now I'm starting to put down, call me. Guess what, James? In 14 years that I put call me, I probably got 8 calls, because all these keyboard warriors don't want to call me. They're all fantastic on the keyboard, but my phone doesn't ring. You know what I mean? And if they called me, they would see that, hey, I'm a logical guy. I'm going to speak with you nice and friendly. I'm going to be respectful. I'm not going to be disrespectful. Why would I do that? You don't do that.
We've talked a long time, known each other for I don't even want to count how many years, because we probably both have more gray hair from it. But we've never had to have a fight that's personal. It's always been an issue. We've always
absolutely,
and that's one that I do see with social media that's lacking, is that 3 comments in, it gets personal.
Yeah. And
it shouldn't be. And then we're, oh my gosh, there's James, he's bald, or there's Aldo, he's getting old, or whatever. It's pointless. And if we can go forward with a city with full communication, and I do think that COVID has presented challenges for that. Even the council meetings are, everybody on the screen, it gets harder to watch.
Well, James, you're right. I mean, when you're doing through technology, even now, there's sometimes technical difficulties, right? When I answer my phone or when I'm talking through the social media, for some reason, being Italian, I think you can't hear me, so I speak louder. It looks like I'm yelling at you. And I do it on the phone too. I'm always yelling on the phone, but it's just me talking. And I always think the person can't hear me. I gotta make sure they can hear me. It does take away from the personal interaction. That's why a phone call or in-person meeting, I mean, at 6 feet distance, is always the best way to do things. But remember, James, on social media, it's the same 25 to 30 people. It's same people. You know the names. There's even sites that are anything we say, they're gonna attack you. So same 25 people. That's it.
Now, we're at the halfway mark, kind of. Come fall, we're a couple of years into this term for council. This has probably been a council that has faced some of the biggest challenges in Thunder Bay's history. COVID has hit the small business sector. It's hit the big business sector. It's going to cost us you know, thankfully the province and the federal government are stepping up and keeping us going. What do you see as we go through, looking forward over the next year? What should council be, in your opinion, should be doing?
Okay, so first of all, James, I want to give a shout out to the province and the feds for the programming that they have supplied for businesses and for people. I think without them and the city, especially the city, in helping us with the COVID challenges we had and send us money and resources to deal with it. If it wasn't for them, we would be in serious dire trouble. So God bless them for stepping up. What do I see going forward? Well, you know, you try, like, I guess I'm working on a few projects with a few people with Lincoln Social Planning Council, with other people from the university, etc. There's two major projects that I'm looking forward to. Besides the multiplex, which I hope we're not going to give up on that. We're going to try to find out if it does get defeated next Monday. I'm sure we're not going to give up on it. We're just going to find a way to get this thing done, right? So that's going to go forward, because at the end of the day, and this is what kills me, when I say businesses say to me, don't spend any money, there's no jobs, we're losing our jobs, you're going to make us look. I'm thinking to myself, well, how do you stimulate the economy? You create jobs. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So I'm surprised that people in business, some of them, because I are saying don't do anything. Okay. The other two projects that I'm trying to work on personally with like I said, a bunch of people. One is the Tiny Homes Project. Okay. Still working on it since 2018. It's trying to get partnerships, etc. There'll be a lot of information coming down on that in the future. But the other one is the Waterfront Trail. And I've been talking about it on social media quite a bit, because last Monday, we're going to start it up again. And then, of course, the technical challenges didn't allow us to do that. So we're going to bring it back once the Waterfront Committee gets started again. And James, I've been on that trail a million times, so have other people. 85% of that trail right now is right there already done. All we have to do is pave it. Okay.
Yep.
It's so easy. It's unbelievable.
You could literally go, you know, walking, or my fun is biking. And
yes,
you can literally go, if you want to sneak through a section, you can go from Current River all the way to the waterfront. You know, you're crossing some train tracks where there's a sign that shouldn't go, but you know, that's got potential for a great walking vista. You know, I often wonder in Thunder Bay why we don't find a way to, where can you go skating for a long distance in the winter? You know, I grew up in Winnipeg. There was the duck pond at the Assiniboine Park Zoo, and there was places to go skating outdoors. And you know, sometimes I think, okay, how would we have a big outdoor path, you know, to skate? And Lake Superior inside the harbor is probably not the place, because we've got ice breaking going on in the early spring, and we're ice breaking to keep it open in the fall and extend the shipping season. But, you know, maybe when Boulevard Lake comes back up, there's an option there or something, you know, more fitness opportunities, because that's something I think is important for the mental health and well-being of our city.
Absolutely, James. I mean, motion creates emotion, right? If you're moving, you're feeling better, you're feeling good, it's mentally healthy, et cetera, probably the healthiest thing for any individual. And if you look at countries in the world that have the healthiest fit people, are the ones that, you know, Sweden, Norway, Finland, but they embrace their winters, right?
Yes.
And so we have to do that. And I certainly agree that creating this a waterfront trail, what it'll do is you can have events there. You can have a running marathon there. You could have, tours for tourists to explore the history of the waterfront, elevators, mills, businesses that were there. And for us, we see these elevators and we think nothing of it because we see it every day. But someone come from Europe thinks, whoa, this is better than the Colosseum in a sense, right? They're beautiful. Architecturally, they're like, how did they build these things? There's so much to see, even wildlife. There's beavers, otters, etc., deer.
This is a city that, you know, it's really ironic. I've seen a bear down at Cam River Park on the Fort William side, which shocked me.
Wow.
I was out there one night for a walk, and bang, there was a black bear. And, you know, you see deer all over the city.
Yes.
Damien Gilbert, the amazing videographer, just posted a video of a lynx. I'm not sure where he saw that, but, you know, that's there. And then the grain elevators, you know, the interesting history behind those is the C.D. Howe was the architect, and the people on Port Arthur, when it was Port Arthur and Fort William, both cities were so competitive. You know, if Port Arthur put up a stop sign, Fort William put up 2. And C.D. Howe was the guy to put those grain elevators in place because everyone was laughing, oh, they can't do it there. And he had to sink into the ground, way in to put the pilings, built them. You know, the Dominion Howe unloader was a revolutionary piece that he invented. And then he became the member of parliament for Port Arthur and then the minister of everything in World War II. And, you know, was the guy who created the CBC. I mean, this is all stuff from Thunder Bay. These are people who lived in Thunder Bay and the innovation that's there. And sometimes I think in our city, you know, I've lived in Winnipeg where Winnipeg will never give up. Calgary, come hell or high water, when the Stampede was flooded out a couple of years ago, come hell or high water, we're holding the Stampede, and they did. And sometimes in Thunder Bay, I think we get this mix of negative and positive, and they don't, you know, it ends up with a fight over our future that we lose if we don't embrace it.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm just thinking about what you said about building those elevators. I remember when they're taking down Pool 6, how hard it was to take down Pool 6 because it was so strong, so well built. But James, you're talking about vision. You're talking about moving the city forward. Now, C.D. Howe and all the other forefathers that were ahead of us, these people were tough, they were resilient, they were positive, and they were hard workers. And you know what? Nothing stood in their way. And honestly, I think the majority of people want to move forward. And we're just letting, I believe, sometimes a small amount of people, you know, sort of doubt ourselves in terms of what we can and can't do. It's always good to have criticism. It's always good to have conversations. That's always good. But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. And the decision you make, the question you have to ask yourself, does it benefit all? Does it benefit all? That's the big decision. And will it move the city forward towards the goal of becoming one of the best cities in the world? And we can do it. I'll give you an example, the art gallery. When they finish this art gallery, it'll be the best art gallery in the world because nobody that I've ever heard of has an art gallery that will have that spectacular location, that spectacular view. And it's going to be such a nice piece on that waterfront. It'll be amazing because every single tourist that comes to Thunder Bay will go visit it. Guaranteed.
Now, I'm going to shift gears on you a little bit, Aldo.
Sure.
I introduced you as the ambassador of positive. I've known you. You are, you know, I have an uncle who's basically, we joke about him that if he fell in a pile of horse shit, he'd find $50. And
I wish.
In COVID-19, what do you see as some of the positives that we have seen come out of this?
Okay, so James, before I start, I just want to say to all the people that have gotten sick and to the people that have lost loved ones, I'm very sorry, first of all,
yes,
that this
absolutely.
happened to you. So, you know, it's hard to talk about positives, but I'm going to try. And I mentioned this earlier to someone else. People are spending more time with their families, with their kids, as we mentioned, we talked about earlier.
Yes.
You know, and as a father, I mean, my kids are older now, you know, but I always embrace that opportunity to spend times with kids when I'm working all day and I get home at night just before they go to bed. I got like 1 hour or an hour and a half. But now, you know, people are doing more things with their families. It's kind of strange because we've never had that opportunity for many, many years, since the 50s or 60s growing up. That's when people spent time together. Sundays, there was nothing to do. Everything was closed. What do? You stuck together with your family. You did family things together. Okay. So it's nice to rediscover your family, to introduce yourself to your wife or your kids or whatever and say, hey, you know, let's go do this or let's go do that. I've been to Mission Island with my dad about 5 times now, at least, looking at the deer, right? I mean, just for a drive because you're bored. or I've been for walks, social distancing, of course, with people, and communicating. We're getting down more to the basics. It's given us time, I think, to appreciate everything we have and to realize that, hey, at the end of the day, we're going to come out okay. We're going to be fine. And then I thought to myself, I can't imagine being in London, England, or in Germany or any other country during the war when they were bombing the heck out of them and trying to live under those conditions with rations, with people like in Moscow where they were closing in on the Second World War. They started eating the horses and then even people because they were starving to death. And here we are in a situation where we still have food, we still have water, we still have freedom, and we got great healthcare. To most, they have great healthcare anyway. So the positives are, I guess, they're there.
I think one of the ones I think one of the ones I've thought of is if you look back to the last pandemic, 1918, 1919, we didn't have internet. The first radio station in Canada was 1926 in Montreal. There was no TV. Your news was, what would you know what was going on? And it was just people, they had it really, really hard. At least for us, we can go vent on social media. We can go watch Netflix. We can sit on YouTube. There's so many more options today, and I do think you're right to an extent, because what I'm seeing with the younger kids, I mean, when COVID first started and it was taking the grandkids out for a walk and the playgrounds were all roped off and ribboned off, they couldn't understand it. And now, even the littler kids, okay, COVID. Yep. They put on their mask, and we live in a funny world. I mean, a year ago, if you were walking into the bank and you put on a mask, you'd be thinking, you'd be in trouble. It'd be an old West movie. So there's a lot of things that are, that we're adapting to quicker. And, I think that the key right now, I guess, is that we all have to be thinking of what others before us have been through and realizing that we've still got it pretty good. I agree with you that the deaths and the people with COVID, it's just heartbreaking. Families suffering in long-term care homes, but overall, we're not having it like as bad as in the past.
Well, James, here's the other thing that's kind of like maybe a sort of a benefit. Now that we've experienced this, we should be very prepared for any other emergency that comes down. We should lock those borders right away. We'll have the mask supplies. We'll have the sterilization supplies. We'll know what protocols to put into place. How do we run businesses now? We know what to do. So there's learning opportunities here, and we should have a checklist for the next pandemic that's going to come. And there'll be another one. It'll be something else. I mean, some other emergency. So maybe going through this now will teach us a lot about future events that might take place.
I think you're right. And I think, Aldo, we should probably, we're going to have a long interview here.
I know.
But I think that the key to some of this is just like you said, what Net News Ledger has always done, and right through our time, and since 2007 when we started, is if you're going to ask a question, let the guy answer it. Give you the time to express your whole thought without interruption. And I think that's where we're going to win, getting good ideas out there. And not everybody's going to agree with everything you said or everything I said. Fine. Put out a solution. So from that, I want to thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
And let's do it again.
Thank you very much, James. A pleasure.
All right. Take care.
I'm always glad to get an opportunity.
You bet. To keep up to date, you have to subscribe. You have to hit that like button and hit the notification to stay in touch.